Welcome back, Wrestling Warriors. Here on Matt Mysteries, we drop fresh WWE news every day. Subscribe and let's suplex our way into the stories. CM Punk's return to WWE has always carried emotional weight, history, and unresolved tension. But what happened after he won the World Championship went far beyond a standard victory promo. Instead of celebrating the triumph of defeating Gunther, one of the most dominant champions of the modern era, Punk immediately shifted his attention to someone who wasn't even in the match: Paul Heyman. But what made the moment so intense wasn't just Punk's choice of target. It was the personal weight behind his words. This wasn't a declaration of rivalry for a future opponent. It felt like a message to a chapter of Punk's past that has never fully closed. And while there are no physical threats here, no intimidation tactics beyond storytelling, the emotional implications are heavy. This is about identity, respect, legacy, and the emotional toll of a career that has seen both men rise, fall, rebuild, and reinvent themselves in a business that rarely treats loyalty as something permanent. The moment that shocked the audience. As soon as CM Punk received his championship belt, everyone expected him to revel in the moment. Whether sitting cross-legged in the center of the ring, raising the title above his head, or sharing a quiet smile with the crowd that has followed him through every chapter of his journey. Instead, he walked straight to ringside and demanded a microphone with a seriousness that shifted the entire energy of the arena. Instead of joy, there was tension. Instead of celebration, there was reflection. Punk spoke not like a champion, but like a man confronting something unfinished deep inside himself. His eyes didn't reflect the thrill of victory. They reflected something older and more personal: frustration, memory, and the pressure that comes with being a wrestler whose career has always been tied to emotional intensity rather than just athletic competition. The history between CM Punk and Paul Heyman. To understand why Punk directed his first words toward Paul Heyman, you have to understand the history that ties them together. Heyman was one of the first people in the wrestling world to recognize Punk's charisma and potential, giving him a meaningful platform in ECW when few promoters were willing to take a chance on someone who didn't fit the typical mold of a WWE superstar. But with that opportunity came stress, unpredictable pay situations, and the emotional strain of working in a promotion that was always financially unstable. Punk learned under Heyman not just wrestling philosophy, but how to speak from the heart, how to tell a story with conviction, and how to use raw emotion to bring fans into your world. But Punk also learned the realities of the wrestling industry: the instability, the uncertainty, the way relationships sometimes bend under pressure, and survival becomes the priority. When ECW folded, some wrestlers felt abandoned, left to navigate their futures without safety or clarity. That emotional imprint has never entirely faded. How this storyline touches real emotional history. While this is still storytelling and entertainment, what makes it impactful is that it draws from real emotional memory. Punk and Heyman aren't enemies, nor are they simply former allies. They are two people who were once deeply connected through shared vision and common struggle. When Punk spoke on the microphone, the crowd didn't hear the voice of a villain or a hero. They heard the voice of a man who has spent years carrying unresolved feelings about where his story should have gone versus where it did go. The wrestling industry is full of creative partnerships that break apart, not because of betrayal or bitterness, but because the business moves faster than relationships can sustain. This doesn't make Heyman a villain or Punk unstable. It makes both men human, flawed, passionate, and deeply shaped by experiences that the audience rarely sees. The stress and pressure on Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman is more than a manager. He is a strategist, a storyteller, and someone who carries enormous responsibility on his shoulders. As the advisor to the tribal chief Roman Reigns, Heyman has spent years helping maintain one of the most dominant championship eras in modern WWE, which is a role that brings expectations, pressure, and intense public scrutiny. Heyman's age and workload are also real parts of the narrative. Maintaining the emotional and creative weight of a storyline that spans years is demanding, both mentally and physically. While this storyline is not about threatening Heyman's well-being, it does highlight how much strain comes with being the public voice of the most powerful faction in WWE. When CM Punk speaks to Heyman on screen, it touches not just their shared history, but the pressure Heyman continues to manage behind the scenes. The emotional burden CM Punk has carried. CM Punk's career has always been defined by passion, intensity, and authenticity, which is both his greatest strength and his greatest challenge. The same emotional conviction that makes his promos unforgettable also means he feels the highs and lows of the business more deeply than most. His time away from WWE, his struggles with injury, exhaustion, and the pressures of being a symbol for outspoken independence have all taken a real emotional toll. Returning to WWE wasn't just about wrestling, it was about confronting unfinished chapters of his identity. When Punk talks about legacy, he's not referring to championship trophies or merchandise sales. He's talking about how his journey will be remembered and whether the sacrifices he made meant something. Addressing Heyman is part of that reflection. Not revenge, not anger, but acknowledgement of where his path began. Roman Reigns and the bloodline are not the target. While some fans expected Punk's next storyline to immediately involve Roman Reigns, Punk's promo made it clear that his focus right now is on understanding and reclaiming the emotional narrative of his past. This isn't about tearing down the bloodline or disrupting the structure of WWE's current main event scene. It's about Punk making peace with the version of himself that Heyman helped shape years ago. Roman Reigns remains a central figure in WWE storytelling, and his alliance with Heyman is a strategic and mutually beneficial partnership. Punk stepping into this space introduces complicated emotional layers, but not because of animosity, because of memory and meaning. The story is not about a war between factions. It's about identity. The financial and career pressure surrounding the story. Everyone involved in this story operates under high stakes, not because of personal grudges, but because the wrestling business is financially competitive, emotionally demanding, and constantly evolving. CM Punk's return has brought massive merchandise sales, boosted viewership, and increased mainstream conversation about WWE. Paul Heyman's continued involvement in top-tier storytelling remains one of WWE's most valuable creative assets. Both have something to protect, not each other, but the legacies they've built through decades of dedication. This story touches on the reality that reputations in wrestling are not just emotional, they are professional and financial currency. The story going forward. Where this goes next will depend not on anger or destruction, but on acknowledgement. CM Punk and Paul Heyman's eventual face-to-face confrontation will not be about violence. It will be about truth. It will be about two people who once believed in each other, who took different paths, now standing in front of the fans that witnessed their evolution. WWE has the opportunity to tell a story, not of revenge, but of emotional closure, something rare in professional wrestling.